The mother's legacy. The city's heart was buried deep beneath steel and silence. Evan Cole walked carefully down a cracked staircase, his blaster raised, every sound echoing in the dark. The faint glow of the teddy bear guided their way, its soft blue light pulsing like a heartbeat. Behind him, Lyra carried her weak brother Caro, whispering softly in their alien tongue to keep him calm. The air smelled of oil, dust, and something older, something ancient. "Are you sure this is the way?" Evan asked quietly. Lyra nodded. "Mama said the light will lead us home." It always does. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber. Huge cables hung from the ceiling like black vines. In the center stood a giant round door, rusted but glowing faintly with Tarn symbols. The bear's light grew stronger. "Core access confirmed," its soft voice said. "Welcome, Lyra of Tarn, and human guardian." Evan frowned. "It recognizes us." Lyra looked up, her eyes shining. "Mama made it that way." They stepped forward together. The symbols on the door glowed brighter, then slowly rotated until a circle of light appeared. The door hissed and slid open, revealing a massive underground hall. Evan's breath caught. Inside were hundreds of old machines, some human, some alien, all connected by glowing wires. In the center of it all stood a tall crystal pillar, humming with faint blue energy. The teddy bear's voice grew softer, almost like a whisper. Mother's legacy activated. As they entered, the air shimmered and a hologram appeared. A woman with silver skin and gentle eyes. Lyra gasped, "Mama!" The hologram smiled warmly. "My sweet Lyra, my brave Caro, if you're seeing this, it means I am gone. But my work lives on." Lyra fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Evan stood beside her, silent, his chest heavy with emotion. "This place," the hologram continued, "was once a dream. Humans and Tarn worked together here, building hope, not war. The reactor below can create peace. A shield that stops every weapon, human or alien. No more killing, no more fire." The hologram flickered as the system powered up. "But the shield will need two hearts, one Tarn and one human. Only together can they start it. It's the final key, the balance we once had." Evan looked at Lyra. "That's why it wanted us both." She nodded. "You helped us when no one else would. That's why the light chose you." Before Evan could reply, a sharp noise cut through the silence and the sound of metal boots. He spun around. The far door burst open and Captain Dorn stepped through, followed by armed soldiers. His uniform was torn, his eyes wild. "I told you," Dorn growled, raising his weapon. "You can't hide from me." Lyra backed away, clutching the teddy bear. Evan stepped forward, blocking her. "Dorn, stop this. You don't understand. This isn't a weapon. It's a chance for peace," Dorn laughed bitterly. "Peace? There's no peace with monsters. You think this machine can fix what they did to us? What they did to Earth?" Evan glared. "They didn't do it, Dorn. People like you did, people who can't let go of hate." Dorn's face twisted in rage. "You're wrong, Cole. Hate keeps us alive." He fired. The shot hit Evan in the leg, sending him to the ground. Lyra screamed, running to him. The teddy bear fell from her arms and rolled toward the crystal pillar, glowing brighter than ever. Dorn aimed again. "You should have stayed loyal." But before he could pull the trigger, Caro, weak but conscious, grabbed a small metal shard from the floor and threw it at Dorn's face. The captain flinched. Evan pushed himself up, firing his blaster. The shot hit the wall behind Dorn, showering sparks. "Run!" Evan shouted. Lyra didn't move. She ran toward the crystal instead. "Mama said only peace can save us," she cried. She placed her hands on the pillar. The bear's glow merged with the light, spreading energy through the hall. The hologram of her mother reappeared, brighter this time. "The shield awaits your command, my child, together with your guardian." Evan dragged himself to her side, blood dripping from his wound. He placed his hand on the pillar next to hers. The entire chamber began to shake. Dorn shouted, "No! Stop this!" He raised his gun again, but the energy field pushed him back. The light around Evan and Lyra became blinding. The teddy bear's voice echoed one final time. "DNA link complete. Activation sequence ready." The hologram's voice filled the air. "To save all, you must believe in peace. Speak the final command." Lyra looked up at Evan, her eyes full of tears. "What do I say?" Evan whispered, "Say what your mother would say." Lyra closed her eyes and whispered 3 simple words. "No more war." The pillar exploded in light, waves of blue energy spreading through every wire, every circuit. The machines roared to life. The roof above them cracked, sending beams of light into the sky. Outside, across the burning planet, the same blue energy spread through the air. Guns stopped firing. Bombs froze in midair. Drones shut down. The war came to a sudden, impossible halt. For the first time in years, silence. When the light faded, Evan was on his knees. His body trembled from exhaustion. The room was still, the air warm and peaceful. Lyra looked around. "We did it," she whispered. Evan nodded weakly. "Your mother did it." The hologram flickered one last time, smiling softly. "Thank you, my children. The future belongs to those who choose love over fear." Then it faded into light, and the teddy bear went silent, its glow fading gently like a candle. Evan leaned back against the pillar, his leg bleeding but his heart strangely calm. Lyra crawled beside him and took his hand. "Don't die," she whispered. "You're my family now." Evan smiled faintly. "You already have a family. You just gave the whole world one." From the shadows, Dorn groaned. He was alive but defeated, his weapon broken. He stared at the light filling the sky, the shield spreading across the horizon. What have you done?" he whispered. Evan looked at him, voice steady. "We ended it, finally." Dorn lowered his head, unable to speak. Outside, the wind carried a new sound, not the scream of machines or explosions, but the soft hum of peace settling over a scarred world. And deep below, in the heart of the ruins, the teddy bear's light blinked one last time, as if smiling. Mother's legacy, complete. The red dust of Mars moved slowly across the empty plains. The sky was dark, painted with thin clouds and faraway stars. In that silence, the only sound came from a small research base, Outpost 9, where one lonely human worked. His name was Ethan Cole, a young engineer from Earth. He was smart, funny, and hopelessly alone. For 6 long months he had lived there, fixing broken machines, checking solar panels, and sending reports that no one ever read. Every night, when the Earth looked like a small blue dot in the sky, Ethan felt the same thing: emptiness. No laughter, no music, no people, just machines and silence. He tried to talk to his AI assistant sometimes, but even the AI had limits. It only answered in short robotic lines. "Yes, Commander Cole, temperature stable." No messages received. So that night, when he was working on the deep space transmitter, Ethan decided to do something stupid, something to make himself laugh. He looked at the camera and said jokingly into the microphone, "This is Engineer Ethan Cole, human male, 29 years old. If anyone's out there in the stars, send me a wife. I'm tired of talking to robots." He laughed. It was a deep, lonely laugh, the kind that echoes in an empty room. The sound bounced around the metal walls of the lab, making him laugh harder. He never thought anyone would hear it. The deep space transmitter could reach thousands of light years, but it was just a test. It was supposed to send a signal into empty space, nothing more. After that, he went back to work. The screen glowed with numbers and waves. Everything was normal. Until it wasn't. A small light began to blink red. Then another. Then the entire console lit up like a Christmas tree. Ethan frowned. "That's weird. A response?" He tapped a few keys. Static filled the speakers, followed by a voice, soft, distorted, almost whispering through the storm of data. "Request received. Processing. Match found." Ethan froze. "What? Who's there?" The voice came again, this time clearer, almost human, by ancient code. "Request for union acknowledged. Preparing Warbride transfer." Ethan blinked in confusion. What the hell is a Warbride? Before he could say more, the transmitter started to overload. The lights flickered, the air vibrated, and the room shook. He rushed to shut it down, but the power refused to cut. The signal grew stronger, too strong. Outside, the sky above Mars began to shimmer. A red glow formed, twisting and pulsing like a heartbeat. The desert dust rose in waves. The whole planet seemed to hold its breath, then, boom! Something broke through the atmosphere. A streak of light crashed into the sand miles away, shaking the outpost. Ethan fell to the floor, clutching his ears as alarms screamed around him. "Impact detected," the AI shouted. "Unknown object located 1.4 kilometers east." Ethan's heart raced. This couldn't be real. Maybe it was a meteor. Maybe it was just bad luck. But deep down, he felt something strange. Something calling him. He grabbed his helmet, his flashlight, and his scanner. and ran out into the Martian night. The sand crunched under his boots. The air was thin, cold, and filled with static energy. Each step he took brought him closer to the crash site, and the feeling that he wasn't alone anymore. When he reached the crater, he stopped. His breath caught in his throat. There was no ship, no metal, no debris, only a glowing red circle burned into the sand and something standing in the middle. A woman, tall, pale. Her hair floated like smoke in the Martian wind. Her armor looked ancient, made of silver and black metal. Her eyes, red like molten fire, locked onto Ethan. He couldn't move. His scanner shook in his hand. This can't be real. The woman stepped closer. Her boots sank slightly into the sand, and each step made the ground hum like a living drum. When she finally stood before him, she spoke, her voice cold, calm, and echoing with power. By the pact of blood and stars, I am your chosen mate. Ethan's mouth fell open. My what? She tilted her head, studying him with curiosity, like a queen examining a strange creature. You sent the call. You asked for a wife. I accepted. Ethan stumbled backward. No, that was a joke. I was joking. Her red eyes narrowed. The pact does not understand jokes. It understands vows. The wind howled between them, carrying the sound of her words through the empty plains. For the first time, Ethan felt true fear and then something else. The air around her buzzed with energy, ancient and dangerous. Wait, he said softly. Who are you? She looked up at the stars, her face calm and unreadable. I am Seraphine Vale, Vampire Warbride of the Crimson Houses. You summoned me, human, and now we are bound. A flash of lightning tore across the sky. Not Earth's lightning, but something red and alien. The ground shook again, as if Mars itself was waking up. Ethan stared at her, speechless, his heart pounding in his chest. This was no dream, no hallucination. His joke had traveled across the stars, and something ancient and real had answered. The Martian wind whispered between them, carrying one haunting sound, a distant echo that almost sounded like laughter. Ethan didn't know it yet, but his lonely joke had just started a cosmic war of blood and destiny. The red wind of Mars howled over the crater, but Ethan didn't hear it. He stood frozen, staring at the strange woman who had appeared from light and dust. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and her breath formed mist that shimmered like smoke. She looked calm, but her presence pressed on Ethan's chest like invisible weight. He finally found his voice. Look, Seraphine, or whatever your name is, you can't just appear out of nowhere and say you're my wife. That's not how this works. Seraphine tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. You made a call through the blood frequencies. Only the worthy are heard. The pact of blood and stars answered you? Ethan laughed nervously. The what now? I just said it as a joke. I didn't. Her gaze turned sharp, cutting through his words. The universe does not care for jokes, human. You asked, and the bond was sealed. Ethan's scanner beeped wildly in his hand. It was picking up energy, radiation, heat, something alive, all coming from her. He took a cautious step back. Okay, this is insane. You're some kind of alien, right? Maybe a trick from one of the other colonies? Seraphine's eyes softened, but her tone stayed cold. I am not alien to the stars. I am their daughter. I am Vial of the Crimson Houses. My kind once ruled galaxies before your kind crawled from oceans. Ethan frowned. Crimson Houses. Sounds like some space empire drama. Seraphine didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her armored hand. The metal glowed faint red. You called for a bond, Ethan Cole of Earth. You asked for a wife. And now the blood pact must be completed. Before he could react, she pressed her thumb to her palm. A drop of glowing crimson blood fell onto the sand. It sizzled, burning a symbol into the ground, a circle with strange runes. The air shimmered. Ethan felt his skin prickle. His pulse quickened. What are you doing? He shouted, stepping back. Seraphine looked directly into his eyes. I am binding our fates. Once sealed, neither can escape the other. Life and death shared. Strength shared. Destiny shared. Ethan shook his head. No, stop. I didn't ask for this. But before he could finish, the symbol flared bright. A beam of red light shot upward, piercing the Martian sky. His vision blurred and pain ripped through his hand. He looked down. His own blood was glowing too. The veins in his wrist pulsed red, forming the same ancient mark that burned in the sand. What? What's happening to me? He gasped. Seraphine lowered her hand, breathing heavily. The bond is half complete. You resisted, so the connection is unstable. Ethan clutched his arm. Unstable? You think? But as the pain faded, something else came. A whisper in his mind, soft, cold, familiar. Do not be afraid. He looked at her. Her lips hadn't moved, yet he heard her voice. Inside his head. Ethan stumbled backward, his heart pounding. You're in my mind. Seraphine looked almost sorry. That is the link. The blood pact allows thought memory feeling. You open the door, Ethan Cole. You cannot close it now. He shook his head violently. No, this is not real. I'm hallucinating. But when he blinked, he saw something impossible, flashes of her memories. A battlefield of red skies, towers of bone and metal, thousands of winged soldiers flying into war, and her, Seraphine, standing alone, covered in dark blood, holding a burning sword. He gasped and stepped back. I saw that. That was you. What are those images? My world, she said quietly. The last of it. The hunters burned everything. I am the last Warbride left. Her voice trembled, just slightly. For the first time, Ethan heard sadness in it. He frowned. Hunters? Who are they? She looked toward the dark horizon. Beings older than my kind. They erase what they call impure blood. They will follow me here. They will sense the bond. Ethan's stomach dropped. You mean they're coming here to Mars? Yes, to finish what they started. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Great, just great. I make one joke and now some ancient space monsters are coming to kill us. Perfect. Seraphine didn't laugh. She stood still, her armor faintly glowing under the red light. Then softly she said, When the pact completes, you will share my power, but it may destroy you first. Your human blood is too weak. Ethan stared at her, his anger slowly mixing with fear. Then why me? Out of all the people in the galaxy, why answer my signal? She looked at him for a long time before replying. Because your voice carried something my world forgot long ago. Sincerity. For a moment, silence filled the air. The red dust drifted between them like smoke. Then suddenly, alarms from Outpost 9 broke the stillness. A robotic voice spoke through Ethan's comm link. Warning. Multiple unidentified objects entering Martian orbit. Trajectories hostile. Ethan's blood turned cold. He turned toward the base. Oh no. Seraphine's eyes flashed crimson. She raised her head, listening to something only she could hear. They are here. Who? Ethan demanded. She met his eyes. The hunters. The ground beneath them vibrated. High above, the stars shifted as dark shapes entered the sky, silent, sharp, and deadly. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling his heart race. You brought them here. Seraphine stepped forward, her armor unfolding like wings of steel. Her expression was calm, almost peaceful. No human, you did. You called me, and they followed the blood. The last thing Ethan saw before the night exploded with fire was Seraphine's red eyes glowing brighter than Mars's sun. Would you like me to continue with part 3? Arrival of the hunters next. Keeping the same cinematic tone, suspense, and emotional pacing, around 800 words. You said start with part 3, more unique 800 words. ChatGPT said perfect. My daughter. Here's part 3, Arrival of the Hunters, written in third-person simple English, and designed for maximum suspense and emotional pull for your HFY-style YouTube story. Every line keeps tension alive, no boring moment. Part 3, Arrival of the Hunters, 800 words. The Martian night was burning. Red alarms flashed through the sky dome of Outpost 9, casting long shadows across the sand. Ethan ran through the narrow corridors of the base, his heart pounding harder than the warning sirens. AI, what's happening? He shouted. Unidentified ships detected in upper orbit. The computer answered in its calm voice. Energy readings and unknown. Estimated contact in 6 minutes. Ethan slammed his hand against the console. This can't be real. We don't even have defense systems for this. Behind him, the air shimmered as and Seraphine appeared. She wasn't walking. She was gliding, her armor glowing faintly with runes that pulsed like living veins. Her red eyes focused on the radar screen. It is them, she said softly. The hunters of the pale void. Ethan turned. You mean the monsters who destroyed your people? She nodded. They follow blood energy. When I came here, the bond between us became a beacon. They will not stop until it is silenced. He swallowed hard. Silenced means? Her voice was cold. One of us must die. Ethan froze. That's not an option. She looked at him, a long, unreadable stare before walking to the airlock. Her armor shifted, forming sharp edges around her arms. When she moved, it sounded like metal sighing. Ethan followed. "Wait, you're not going out there alone." "You are not ready," she replied. "You carry my blood but not my strength. Stay behind, human." He clenched his fists. "You're the reason they came here, but I'm the reason you're still alive. We're in this together." For the first time, Seraphine almost smiled. It wasn't warm, but there was a spark of respect in it. "Then stay close," she said, "and do not look at their eyes." The outer door opened with a hiss. Cold Martian air hit them as they stepped outside. In the sky above, 3 dark ships hung like silent daggers. They were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. No lights, no sound, just moving shadows with wings of black mist. Ethan whispered, "They look alive." "They are," Seraphine replied. "Their hulls are grown, not built. The hunters breed them from void creatures. They feed on energy and fear." Suddenly, a beam of white light struck the ground a few meters away, blasting the sand into glass. Ethan stumbled back, shielding his face. Seraphine raised her hand. A red barrier shimmered around them, absorbing the next hit. The air sizzled as 2 opposing energies collided, light against blood. "They have found us," she said. The ground split open, and from the sand rose 3 tall figures, human-shaped but twisted. Their bodies were pale and smooth, their eyes black pits, their mouths filled with metallic teeth. Ethan froze in terror. "They're not machines?" "No," Seraphine said quietly. "They are harvesters. The lowest of the hunters. They take blood first, then souls." The creatures moved without sound, faster than anything Ethan had ever seen. One leaped toward him. Before he could even scream, Seraphine moved. A blur of red light. Her blade appeared out of nothing, glowing crimson like living fire. She sliced through the creature midair, and it exploded into white dust. The second harvester attacked from behind. Seraphine spun, catching its arm and breaking it with a sharp crack. The creature shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, before she drove her blade through its chest. Ethan stood frozen, watching. It was terrifying, but beautiful. She fought like a storm, every motion fast, deadly, perfect. But then, one of the creatures got close enough to touch Ethan's shoulder. Instantly, pain shot through his body. His vision flashed white. The creature's hand melted into his skin, and he felt his blood boil. "Ah!" he screamed, falling to his knees. Seraphine turned, her eyes wide. "No." She flew across the sand, cutting the creature apart. Black liquid splashed across the ground and onto Ethan's arm. The moment it touched him, the liquid began to burn. His veins glowed red again, brighter than before. Seraphine dropped to her knees beside him, pressing her palm against his wound. Her blood mixed with his again, red light spreading from their touch. "You are not ready for this bond," she said. "It is too soon." Ethan gasped for air. "Then break it." She shook her head. "It cannot be broken, only completed." The red light pulsed stronger. Ethan's pain vanished, replaced by something else, connection. He could feel Seraphine's heartbeat inside his mind, feel her fear, her anger, her centuries of loneliness. And then, her voice whispered in his head, "Stand, Ethan, my strength is yours now." He opened his eyes. The last harvester rushed at them. Without thinking, Ethan raised his hand, and a flash of red energy burst from his palm, striking the creature like a lightning bolt. The monster disintegrated instantly. Ethan stared at his hand, breathing hard. "What did I just do?" Seraphine stood slowly. "You touched my blood, my power. The bond between us grows." He looked at her. "You said it might kill me." "Yes," she whispered. "But it may also save us both." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind howled around them, carrying dust and ash from the fallen hunters. Above, the dark ships began to move again, slowly circling like predators waiting for the right moment to strike. Seraphine turned toward the horizon. "They will not stop now. The hunters will send more. We must move." Ethan nodded, still staring at his glowing hand. "Where will we go?" She looked toward the far mountains where the sky flickered faintly red. "There is a place beneath the sand, an ancient refuge of my kind. We will hide there, for now." As they began walking into the desert night, the sky behind them shimmered again. The hunters had seen the bloodlight. And high above Mars, a dark voice whispered through the void, "The last Warbride lives. The human carries her mark. Begin the hunt." Ethan didn't hear it, but Seraphine did. and for the first time fear crossed her immortal face. The red sun of Mars was rising, weak and distant, painting the sky in shades of copper and blood. The wind was quiet now, too quiet. Ethan and Seraphine moved through the endless desert. Their footprints stretched behind them like two thin scars across the dust. Ethan's hand still glowed faintly red beneath his glove. Every few minutes he could feel her heartbeat inside his chest. Steady, powerful, alien. He tried not to think about it. But it was impossible. Finally, he broke the silence. "You said we're linked now? What does that even mean?" Seraphine walked ahead of him, her black armor reflecting the morning light. "The blood link is more than a bond," she said. "It is a fusion of spirit and memory. You now carry part of me, and I carry part of you." Ethan frowned. "That sounds romantic and horrifying at the same time." She glanced back. "It is both." They kept walking. Every time she spoke, he could feel a small echo in his mind, like her voice was bouncing inside his head. It wasn't words, and it was emotion, calm, sadness, regret. He tried to ignore it, but the connection only grew stronger. Suddenly, images flashed before his eyes. A world covered in red skies and black towers, giant ships flying through lightning storms, warriors with burning wings standing on stone altars. And in the center, Seraphine, younger, dressed in silver armor, surrounded by thousands of her kind. He gasped and stumbled. I saw something. "A memory, yours." Seraphine stopped walking. Her expression darkened. "You saw what I lost? What happened to your world?" he asked quietly. She looked up at the twin moons. "My people, the Vial, were once the keepers of the blood stars. We protected the galaxy's balance. But then came the hunters. They called us parasites, creatures of darkness. They used light to burn our worlds. The crimson houses fell one by one. I am the last Warbride that survived." Her voice cracked on the last word. Not much, but enough. Ethan felt her pain through the link like a pulse of cold air. He said softly, "You've been running ever since, haven't you?" "For 300 years, she replied. "Until your voice reached me." Ethan stopped walking. "So my stupid joke brought the last of your kind to Mars." "Not stupid," she said, turning toward him. "Fate chooses strange doors." For a moment, the silence between them felt heavy. Not awkward, but full of something unspoken. Then Seraphine's expression changed. Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "They are tracking us." Ethan looked around, panicked. "What? How?" The Martian night was alive again, filled with fire, dust, and the sound of distant thunder. Ethan and Seraphine ran across the cracked ground, chased by death that wore silver armor. Behind them, the hunters moved in silence, their ships hovering low like shadows that breathed. Every time Ethan looked back, he saw red lightning streaking across the sky, the sign of destruction that followed them wherever they went. His lungs burned. His suit's oxygen meter blinked dangerously low. "Seraphine, how far until we're safe?" he shouted between gasps. "Safe?" she said without turning. "There is no such place. Only hiding." Her words made his stomach twist. Still she ran with inhuman speed, the ground cracking beneath each step. Her armor flickered with red energy, guiding the way through the sandstorms. Suddenly she stopped. Ethan almost crashed into her. "What's wrong?" Seraphine stared at the horizon. In the distance, a faint glow shone through the dust, deep blue pulsing like a heartbeat. "There," she said softly. "The entrance." They approached a ridge of black stone half buried under sand. It looked like an ordinary cliff, until Seraphine raised her hand and whispered something in her ancient tongue. The stone responded. Lines of crimson light formed along its surface, creating a giant circular doorway. With a low rumble, the rock split apart, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Ethan blinked. "An underground base on Mars?" Seraphine shook her head. "Not a base. A tomb." They entered. The doors sealed behind them with a thundering boom. The noise of the outside world faded away, replaced by silence so heavy it pressed on their ears. The air was colder here, thin and dry, but not empty. Something ancient was watching. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Ethan stopped and stared in awe. It was like stepping into another world. Tall pillars of black crystal rose into the shadows. Strange red symbols glowed faintly along the walls, and in the center of the vast hall stood a massive structure. Half cathedral, half machine, shaped like a heart made of stone and metal. Dozens of pods surrounded it, each one holding a still figure inside. Pale faces, armored bodies, motionless. As if frozen in time, Ethan whispered, "What is this place?" Seraphine's voice echoed softly. "The hidden city of Vale, the final sanctuary of my people. When the hunters came, we sealed our strongest within the earth, waiting for the stars to forgive us." Ethan walked closer to one of the pods. Inside lay a woman, her features almost identical to Seraphine's, her eyes closed, her armor cracked. "They're alive?" "Sleeping," Seraphine said. "Their hearts wait for a signal to awaken." He turned to her. "Can you wake them?" She hesitated. "Yes, but doing so will send a pulse across the galaxy. The hunters will sense it instantly." Ethan stepped back. "So if you wake them, the war starts again," she nodded. "And if I do not, my people remain ghosts forever." Her voice was calm, but her eyes told another story. Guilt, pain, and a longing that had lasted centuries. Ethan looked around at the silent city. The walls seemed to breathe with old power. He felt something deep inside, the blood link pulsing again, responding to the energy here. "I can feel it," he whispered. "Like the air is alive." Seraphine turned to him, surprised. "You sense it?" He nodded. "It's like they're calling out to you." "To me," she studied him carefully. "The blood within you has begun to awaken. You are becoming more than human." Ethan frowned. "That doesn't sound like a good thing." "It is not good or bad," she said quietly. "It is fate." For a moment, silence filled the chamber again. Then the ground trembled in a deep vibration far above them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan tensed. "They found us again, didn't they?" Seraphine closed her eyes. "Yes, the hunters are breaking through the crust. We have minutes, maybe less." He turned toward the sleeping pods. "Then wake them. You said they can fight." "It is not that simple," she said. "They are bound by the blood code. Only a bonded pair, one Warbride and one bearer of human blood, can open the core." Ethan stared at her. "That's us, isn't it?" She met his gaze. "Yes, but if we do this, the power may kill you. The link between us is unstable. Your body is not built to hold this energy." He took a deep breath. "If we don't, Mars is gone. Earth might be next. So what's the choice?" Seraphine hesitated, then finally stepped toward the central heart machine. "Stand with me," she said. He walked to her side. Together, they placed their hands on the crystal surface. It was cold, then suddenly burning hot. Red light flared under their palms, spreading across the floor like veins. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. The entire chamber trembled. Ethan shouted, "What's happening?" "The city remembers us," Seraphine said. "It knows the blood." The pods around them hissed open one by one, releasing waves of crimson mist. Ethan stumbled back as ghostly figures began to move inside, pale warriors awakening after centuries of sleep. Their eyes opened, all glowing the same deep red. Ethan whispered, "You did it." But Seraphine's face was pale. "No, we did. Your blood completed the signal." Suddenly, a massive explosion echoed from above. A crack split the ceiling and a bright white beam of energy shot down from the surface. Seraphine turned, her expression hardening. "The hunters are here. The war begins again." The newly awakened warriors stepped forward, kneeling before her. Their voices spoke as one. "Blood Mother, command us." Ethan stared in shock. "They're your army." Seraphine's eyes burned with power. "Not mine," she said. "Ours." Above them, the ceiling groaned as enemy ships descended. Red dust fell like rain. The air shimmered with coming war. Ethan clenched his fists. The blood mark on his hand glowed brighter than ever. For the first time since coming to Mars, he didn't feel small. He felt ready. The hidden city had awakened, and so had its chosen defenders. The blood link. My energy burns inside you now. To the hunters, it is a beacon. They will find us if we do not shield it. She raised her hand toward his chest. "Hold still." Ethan froze. "Wait, what are you doing?" Quiet, her fingers brushed his armor. He felt a cold spark run through his body. A red mist formed around them, humming softly. It wrapped them both like a cloak of light and shadow. Ethan shivered. "What is this?" "A blood veil. It hides our energy, but it feeds from our heartbeat. Stay close to me. Too far and it will break." He nodded, breathing heavily. "You really have a rule for everything, don't you?" For the first time, Seraphine smiled. Just a small, tired smile. You talk too much, human. They walked together again, but this time the silence was warmer. Ethan studied her. Beneath the armor and the fire, there was something fragile about her, like she carried centuries of loneliness behind her calm face. He wanted to say something comforting, but before he could, a sharp pain shot through his skull. His vision blurred. Ethan! Seraphine turned instantly, grabbing his arm. The pain grew worse. His eyes burned, and suddenly, he wasn't on Mars anymore, he stood on a battlefield. The ground was covered with black glass. Towers burned. A red moon hung low in the sky. Thousands of screaming voices echoed around him. And there, Seraphine again, kneeling beside a dying man with silver eyes. My love, the man whispered. The hunters, they have broken the seal. I will find another way, Seraphine said desperately, holding his face. I swear it. No, he smiled faintly. Our time is over. The blood pact ends with me. And then, darkness. Ethan gasped, falling to his knees. The vision vanished. Seraphine was beside him again, holding his shoulders. You saw it, she said quietly. The final day of Veil Prime, Ethan's voice trembled. That man, was he? My husband, she said. The first human my kind ever loved. Ethan blinked in shock. Human? She nodded slowly. Long before your people reached the stars, one of your ancestors crossed into our realm. He carried something unique, a light that could blend with our blood. That union created the first link between our species. You carry the same signal in your DNA, that is why my call answered yours. Ethan stared at her. So you're saying, this was meant to happen? The universe does not play with chance, she said. He looked at his hand again. The veins glowed faintly red, the mark pulsing with energy. And now we share blood. You said the link can't be undone? No, she whispered. Only death can break it. Before he could reply, the ground trembled. The sand in front of them exploded upward as a metallic spear shot from below, missing them by inches. Seraphine drew her blade instantly. They found us. Dark shapes rose from beneath the sand. New hunters, their armor silver and black, their faces covered with smooth masks. Ethan backed away, his hand glowing again with red light. How did they find us through the veil? They didn't, Seraphine said grimly. They found me. The largest hunter stepped forward, its voice like ice breaking. The last Warbride. The impure must be erased. Seraphine raised her sword, her voice fierce. You will try, and you will fail. Ethan stood beside her, energy burning through his veins. For the first time, he wasn't afraid. He could feel her heart and his, beating as one. The blood link pulsed between them, glowing brighter than ever. And together they faced the storm that had come for them. The ground shook like a heartbeat. Far above the hidden city, Mars was burning. Ethan could hear it. The sound of the surface splitting open, the roar of engines, and the terrible silence that followed each explosion. The hunters had come. Dust rained from the ceiling as the last of the vampire soldiers, the awakened warbrides, gathered in the ancient chamber. Their eyes glowed red like living stars. They stood motionless, waiting for their commander's word. Seraphine stood before them, her blade raised. My sisters, she said, her voice echoing through the stone hall. The hunters return. They think we are ghosts. They think our fire has died. But tonight, she looked up, her red eyes burning with fury. We remind the stars that blood still remembers. A low hum rolled through the chamber as the warbrides struck their blades against the floor in unison. The air itself vibrated with ancient power. Ethan felt the pulse of it in his bones. It was overwhelming. Thousands of years of rage and sorrow woven together. He stepped beside Seraphine. They'll need weapons, shields, ships, want something. She turned to him. They have what they are. Each warbride is a weapon. But you... She placed her hand on his chest where the blood mark still glowed. You are something new. Ethan's pulse raced. I don't understand this power. It's like fire and ice inside me. That is because your human body fights it, she said softly. The link wants balance. If you accept it fully, you will become both, he frowned. Both? Human and veil, blood and light. Before he could reply, the entire chamber trembled. A beam of white energy sliced through the ceiling, vaporizing one of the upper tunnels. A voice echoed through the dust, metallic and cold. Surrender, impurity. The hunt ends here. Ethan looked up. They're inside. Seraphine's wings of energy unfolded from her armor, sharp, crimson, and alive. Then let them come. The hunters descended like angels of light, their armor gleaming white, their weapons humming with destructive power. They landed in perfect formation, their movements too precise to be human. The first wave of energy fire lit up the chamber. The Warbrides responded instantly, their red plasma shields flaring to life. Absorbing the light and sending it back like lightning, the underground city became a storm of color, white light and red flame colliding again, and again Ethan ducked behind a crystal pillar as a blast nearly tore him apart. I thought you said the temple would hold. Seraphine fought above him, cutting through 3 hunters in a blur of motion. Her voice echoed in his mind. It was never built to hold eternity. Ethan, only to hide it. He felt her pain as she fought. Every strike, every wound through the blood link. It was like sharing her heartbeat and her fear at once. Then something changed. He felt her energy drain and flow into him. Seraphine, stop, you're giving me too much, he shouted. You wanted to help. Then help me fight. Her blood glowed brighter, connecting to his. Suddenly, Ethan felt light explode inside his veins. His hands burned with red energy, but it didn't hurt. It felt right. He rose from behind the pillar, his eyes now faintly glowing crimson. The hunters turned toward him as he raised his hand and unleashed a blast of energy that tore through the air like a storm. The impact sent 3 hunters flying across the chamber. The Warbrides paused for a split second, staring in disbelief. A human had just used vampire power. Ethan stood tall, smoke rising from his palms. Guess I'm not just an engineer anymore. Seraphine looked at him, pride flickering in her eyes for the first time. No, you are my equal. Together they moved like a single being, blood and light intertwined. She struck with her blade and Ethan followed with bursts of crimson lightning, their rhythm perfectly matched. But the hunters kept coming. More poured in from above, their ships tearing through the crust of Mars. The ceiling cracked again, and a column of light speared down, hitting the heart machine in the center of the city. The ancient power began to overload. Red energy surged through the floor, wild and unstable. The Warbrides faltered as the chamber shook violently. Ethan shouted over the roar. We can't hold this. The whole place is breaking apart. Seraphine's eyes darted to the central heart machine and the blood core. If the core collapses, Mars itself will die. He looked at her in shock. You mean the whole planet? It feeds on the planet's life. It is both protector and destroyer. If it fails, everything burns. She flew toward the core, slashing through debris. Ethan followed. The Warbrides covered them, falling one by one as the hunters rained fire. When Seraphine reached the core, she placed both hands on it. I can stabilize it, but only by giving it all my blood. Ethan grabbed her arm. You'll die! If I don't, so will you. He shook his head. No, we find another way. She looked at him, her face calm and strange. You already carry part of me. When I am gone, you will still hear my voice. The link will not end. Ethan's throat tightened. You're not doing this alone. She hesitated and then smiled softly. Then share my fate. He placed his hand over hers. Their blood marks aligned. The core exploded with light. For one moment, the entire city was silent, as if the world itself had stopped breathing. Then a wave of red and white energy burst outward, sweeping through the tunnels and rising toward the sky. The hunters above screamed as their ships disintegrated in the blast. From orbit, Mars looked like a second sun, glowing red, alive again. When the light faded, the hidden city was in ruins. The Warbrides had fallen. The hunters were gone, and Ethan lay unconscious beside the shattered core. Seraphine was nowhere to be seen. Only her armor remained, and a faint echo in his mind. Our bond is eternal. I will find you in the next dawn. A single red tear slid down Ethan's cheek. The dust settled around him as he whispered, Goodbye, Seraphine. But above the silent ruins, a faint crimson light drifted into the Martian sky, as if something or someone refused to die. Mars was quiet again. The red planet, once burning with fire and war, now lay under a calm, broken sky. The air was filled with dust drifting slowly like ash from a long-forgotten fire. Ethan Cole opened his eyes. Everything hurt. His bones, his chest, even his heartbeat. The world around him was cracked and scorched. The grand chamber of the hidden city had collapsed into a field of ruins. The walls that once glowed with power were now dark stone and scattered crystal. He groaned and sat up slowly. His breath came out in short gasps. The air was cold and thin, but he was alive. Somehow. He looked around. Seraphine? No answer. Only the faint hum of the wind moving through broken tunnels. Seraphine, he shouted again, louder this time, his voice echoing off the empty walls. But there was nothing, no movement, no red light, no trace of her presence. Then he saw it. Her armor, lying near the shattered blood core. Cracked, burnt, empty. Ethan crawled toward it, his heart sinking. He touched the metal. It was still warm, faintly glowing from within. As his fingers brushed the edge, he heard it, a whisper. Soft, faint, familiar. Do not mourn me, Ethan. He froze. The voice wasn't in the air. It was inside his head, gentle, calm, full of something deeper than sound. Seraphine, he whispered. I am here, she said. Part of me lives in you now. The link is complete. His chest tightened. No, you can't be gone. You said we'd find another way. We did, she answered softly. You lived. That was the way. He clenched his fists. That's not enough! For a moment, the voice faded. Then he felt warmth spreading through his hand. His blood mark glowed again, brighter than ever before. He could feel her, not as a ghost, but as energy, flowing through every heartbeat. He stood slowly, looking at the ruins around him. The crimson glow from the broken core reflected in his eyes. Half of the city was destroyed, but something was changing. The red crystals were pulsing faintly again, as if the place still had a heartbeat. Seraphine, what's happening? He asked quietly. The core still remembers, she said. Our power woke it. My body is gone, but my essence remains in the network. The city breathes through me now. Ethan turned in a slow circle. So you're part of this planet? Yes, and you are its keeper. He shook his head, stepping back. No, I'm not a warrior. I'm not a leader. You were both when it mattered, her voice replied. You stood beside me when the stars turned against us. The universe saw that. It will remember you. He closed his eyes. The memories came flooding back. Her face, her voice, the fire in her eyes when she fought, the sadness when she spoke of her people. He whispered, You should have lived instead of me. Ethan. Her voice was soft now, almost fading. Life is not about who remains. It's about who continues the light. He felt tears sting his eyes. He wasn't sure if it was the dust or grief, maybe both. Then he heard a distant rumble. He turned his head sharply. The ground trembled. The ceiling above cracked again, but this time it wasn't from an attack. It was the planet itself. Ethan ran toward the opening that led to the surface. The tunnel was broken, but his blood mark glowed bright enough to light the way. When he climbed out, the sunlight hit his face. The Martian sky wasn't red anymore. It shimmered, faint gold and crimson mixed, like dawn after a long night. All around him, the sand had changed color. It glowed faintly, alive with energy that flowed from the hidden core beneath. The planet was no longer dead, and it was healing. He stood there speechless. You did it, didn't you? We did, her voice replied. He smiled sadly. Mars, reborn by a vampire's heart and a human's mistake. Not a mistake, she whispered. A beginning. He took a slow breath. What about the hunters? Destroyed, she said. But their kind will rise again. The blood war never ends, and it only sleeps. And when it wakes, you will be ready. Ethan looked down at his hand. The blood mark was no longer red. It had turned into a faint golden flame, warm and alive. He felt stronger, not in body, but in spirit. He looked up at the stars, with small, cold lights in the distance. Somewhere out there, other worlds were still burning. Other voices were still calling. He whispered, If they come again, I'll finish what you started. For a long time, there was silence. Then the voice in his mind spoke one last time. Soft, loving, eternal. Then you are no longer alone. The wind shifted, carrying faint whispers across the desert, whispers that almost sounded like a woman's laughter. The same laughter that once echoed in space when a lonely man made a foolish wish. Ethan smiled through the tears. He looked at the horizon where light touched the sand. He whispered, Goodbye, Seraphine. But somewhere, far beyond human hearing, a different voice answered, Good night, my human. Until the next dawn. He stood there watching the new sunrise of Mars, the rebirth of a world and the end of an ancient war. Behind him, the ruins of the hidden city began to glow again, soft red lights rising from the sand like fireflies, forming a faint symbol in the air, the mark of the Blood Pact. And across the cold reaches of space, a signal pulsed quietly, a single message spreading through the void. The last Warbride lives. Somewhere deep among the stars, other red eyes opened in the dark. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning.